Hi, I'm Jason Weber, Member Services Manager at GMDC. The purpose of this video is to both help you prepare and make the most of your 8-minute market on-ramp meeting or your 10-minute CCC meeting at the GMDC conference. The three simple but important parts of a successful meeting at the conference are preparation, presentation, and follow-up. We will touch on these three areas in a couple of ways. We'll break down a meeting and cover some of the best practices and some things to avoid. I couldn't think of a better way to have this opportunity to sit down in front of two board members and hear their perspective from both sides of the buying desk. We've invited Rick Cicero, Senior Director of Merchandising for CNS Wholesale, who'll represent the buying side, and Isaac Shapiro, President and CEO of IMS Trading, will represent the supplier manufacturer side. Both of these members bring an interesting perspective to this presentation. Rick, as a wholesaler, having a meeting with a wholesaler is just a little bit different than a retailer. There's some questions that you can ask and an understanding of the relationship between the wholesaler and the retail partner. And Rick's going to help guide you through that. Also, more than likely, you'll have meetings with some of Rick's retail partners, and he'll help guide you as well on some questions to ask the retailer or details to cover with them and how that relates back to CNS. And then Isaac's product mix is interesting in that it covers both of our categories in both of our conferences. So he attends our Health, Beauty, Wellness Conference and our General Merchandise Conference. So he gets to sit in front of a number of the buying teams from a number of the retailers that attend both conferences. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Rick and Isaac. They're going to walk you through and kind of role play through a meeting to give you an idea of the pace and some of the important things to cover in this brief but efficient time period for the meeting. We'll follow that up with a question and answer, cover some best practices, and then ask these two veterans of GMDC conferences maybe some things to consider while they're at the conference. So Rick and Isaac, if you don't mind, could you kind of walk us through an 8-minute meeting and some of those important points to cover?
How you doing?
Hi, Rick Cicero. How are you?
Isaac Shapiro with IMS. Nice to meet you. Been here at the conference for very long today?
Yes.
Well, I just don't know if you're familiar with IMS Trading, but we are pretty strong in bath and body and household cleaning products, and wanted to see how we can earn your business since I know a little bit about your company. We're not currently selling you, but hoping with today we can open up an opportunity to at least talk to you outside the conference about our products.
Great. Let me see what you got.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that we're very strong with in our category of products is our exfoliating products. Many people, when bath started out in the business, it was mostly just a lot of lower price goods. And what we've done as a company is we've really elevated the program to a more premium side of the business, where we feel where the consumer is looking for a product that's not only just lathering with a body wash and the liquid, but actually exfoliating their skin. And some of the things that we're really known for with our company and our products is our exfoliating products. They're stretch cloths that actually stretch, turn into bath scrubbers, so it's more of a 2-in-1 functional product. This is something that we have been as our number one selling item in the market. If you take a look at where we're at today, we're just starting out. We're getting a lot of grocery stores and a lot of specialty stores. One of the things we haven't been able to do is get into the Northeast as much, since I understand you guys do distribute to some independents and also stores as well.
That's correct. Do you make this in both branded and private label?
Today we only do branded. We are exploring private label since we're still pretty new in the market. Is that something you're looking to do today?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, I know we distribute to many retail partners, and I was just wondering what outlets as you sell these out, do you sell them in the private label or into the branded side of the business?
Okay.
So it could fall both areas that we have.
Okay. One of the things that just to understand a little bit more. I mean, this is our star product. But when you take a look at our whole line of products, we actually have a full program that we could add into that. So I don't know if you're currently buying any. Are you buying bath accessories right now for your?
Yeah, we do. We buy from a number of different manufacturers, and each supports different outlets that we service. Again, we have some chain retailers, and we also have some independent retailers that we do merchandise for.
Now, when you do the private label, do that go to all of them, or is it all going to be in different divisions, or what? I understand you guys have different warehouses, so can you explain a little bit, how you look at, an item for distribution in each division?
Yeah, for our chain retailers, they will make the decision on what items to carry in terms of their item mix. So you would have to meet with them, and actually some of them are here at the conference. And then also, for independents, we usually make the item selection. So you will meet with my team in our Edison office.
Okay, great. But let me just, if you don't mind, I'm going to just show you a couple more things just so you're familiar with what we have. We also offer various sizes of mesh sponges. This is obviously a key part of the business. So when you take a look at the different items, we also offer more of a sanitary approach, which you'll see in the market. One of the things that we differentiate ourselves with is offering something for a consumer that doesn't like the product to be exposed. So this has been something we're unique within the market. And we also do offer some other array of products with the with bath gloves and different kitchen,
Now, where do you currently sell this product at?
Right now, we're mostly in just independent supermarkets. So through regional areas, we also sell a chain called HEB down in Texas. But really, we don't have much exposure in the Northeast, and maybe that's where you guys can help with that side. What does it take to go to market? Since I understand you don't sell, you don't have the stores. So how do you sell each of the independents? Or
I would definitely want to follow back up with the team, but I would definitely say that there's an opportunity here. And we go to market in different ways. Again, some that we supply based on the request of our retailers. For independents, we make the decision, and we base it on our market strategy, who the customers that we're servicing. We range from the New England area to Texas to California. Most of our markets are highly Hispanic, so it's a great markets for us. It's the highest growing markets. So it's really important that if you do come in, and what is your strategy compared to those markets?
Okay, how do you promote? Is there something that
we do? We have different promotional vehicles. We have an ad for all our different markets. We also have TPRs, price reductions, and we also do a lot of trade shows. We have 7 across the country.
Oh, yeah, we have 7. Okay.
So different outlets and different avenues of being able to market the product.
Okay, great. What I'd like to do, just to make sure, just because we don't have a lot of representation in the market, when we follow up as well, is there an opportunity? Maybe you have some other sales representatives in the market that understand this category that we can help just to strengthen and help understand your business with filling out forms and I guess understanding the promotional pieces in the trade shows.
I could do a list of recommended brokers and give you who's available out there that call on us.
Okay, great.
You can take a look at those.
Okay. Are you currently reviewing this category right now, or
we review each category once a year. This is scheduled for the end of September.
Okay. So is it best to follow up? You would say July, August for September meeting?
I would say let's follow up in about two months.
Okay.
And that'll give us some time to absorb everything that we've seen today, but also have a good quick turnaround and follow up. So let me here's my card, and I would have you follow up with me, and I will forward you off to one of my team members who is the category manager, and they'll be able to provide you some additional information and hopefully do some business together.
Okay, great. And what I did is I left you a one-pager. It's got my contact information. Obviously, I'm on the site as well. That just has a whole assortment, so you can take a look at that. And then I can also follow up with you with email, and I'll send it to your email. So I know we can follow up.
I appreciate it, Isaac.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Rick and Isaac, really, really big thanks. And you did very well covering what our members can expect and look for in the conference. As you go through your meetings, you'll pick up pace after you go through your first couple meetings, and you'll get into a flow of it. And so both Rick and Isaac, veterans of this process, did well covering a lot of quick and informative pieces of information. Some of the don'ts, I want to cover those quickly, and then we'll just jump into Q&A. But Rick, what are some of the things that kind of are less efficient when a supplier is sitting down with you? Give some tips of things to avoid when they're sitting down for a meeting.
Tips to avoid is really not being prepared. And the biggest piece of preparation is really knowing about the company and the markets that they operate in, and also somewhat of an understanding of the business model. Am I a wholesaler? Am I a retailer? Am I a drug chain? Am I a dollar store? Am I an independent market? Just it gives you a better understanding of how to go to market with that retailer, and that really gives it helps the flow of the meeting. It's right away what the target response will be as a retailer. So,
and to kind of build on that, it's my understanding sitting down and just getting right to business is kind of what you guys expect when the manufacturer supplier is sitting down with you.
Right. For us, this is your time, as a manufacturer. You want to get as much out in that 10 minutes as possible, and you don't want to hear me talk. I know what my business is. I want to know what your business is. You got to sell me on the product. So my biggest experience is, if you know a little bit about the retailer that you're sitting with, that gives them enough. Okay, they know they've done their homework, but really get into your product. We want to know about yours. That's why we're sitting there. We want to know what, as a manufacturer, what you're bringing to the table and how you can differentiate yourself from everyone else there.
So kind of jumping from the things to avoid to, talking about the strength of the meeting. I noticed Isaac had a one sheet at the end, and then kind of representation of his products. Is that what you're looking for? Are there any other things that you're looking for our manufacturers to bring to the table during the meetings?
Definitely a good piece of follow-up is a one sheet, sell sheet. As you know, we'll go through 200 or so plus meetings in a show, and just to kind of refresh the buyer's merchandise. And what Isaac did with stapling his business card to the product line, it definitely is a great way to follow up, because a lot of times I'll see a card with a name and I have no idea what the product that they represented, throughout the period. So this is a great idea, and it's also very valuable to see all the product line up front.
It's a good point. I know a lot of suppliers, or a number of suppliers that come in, have a very broad product line. And so with our format, that's a bit of a challenge. Any recommendation, if you're a 200, 300 SKU company, how do they present that to you in 8 minutes?
Yeah, and I think Isaac did a great job with that as well. He picked out his superstars. He says, if I'm going to get into the market, here are my 2 items that really enhance, my sales pitch. You have a line of items, which is great, but he brought specific items that differentiates him from everyone else, and he pointed out his superstars. So that's what you want to show. And then at the end say, hey, look, but I have 300 other items, and maybe something may come up out of that. And maybe that's where you could drive the conversation on your follow-up.
It seems to me, just like you mentioned, lead with your superstars and show your capability as you wrap up, if that's appropriate. So, so being memorable, you talked about having 200 plus meetings over the course of the conference. Is there any suggestions you have on that, or just kind of bring your A game and be ready to go?
I would say bring your A game, be passionate about your product. If you can't sell it to the person sitting out based on your enthusiasm, if you don't wow the person with that 8 minutes, it's going to be very hard to get a follow-up, because we're sitting with a number of manufacturers during the course of the weekend, and you want to make sure that your product stands out. And you do that many times just by the enthusiasm which you show support of your own product.
Great. I know you touched a little bit on it, but as far as the wholesaler and your partner retailers, for a supplier manufacturer that may be dealing with a wholesaler for the first time, any suggestions on how to approach that in their meeting?
Yeah, very. I would keep it consistent with how you handle each table. You want to have a consistent message, but also understand some of the uniqueness of each platform. What that does is your message that you're conveying, especially if it's your superstars, it's the same message, and multiple people will talk about, hey, did you see this item? And that really, if everybody has the same consistent message, it's a great thing. And then when you're coming back to follow up, that's where you become more specific in terms of how do you go to your market strategy, whether it be through a wholesale environment, retail environment. The only thing on a wholesale side versus a retail is that there are some uniqueness in terms of, if a retailer is saying, if one of our customers indicates go to CNS because they'll have to set you up before I take it in, that would be one of the things that would point out that would be differently than going out to just a retail. So it's definitely, the message should probably be the same. It's just how you attack that conversation.
Okay. And another question I get a lot of times from new suppliers coming in is just around pricing or promotions or any other distribution cost. At what level should a new member or should a new conference attendee talk about pricing of any sort?
Yeah, I always ask the question, and some manufacturers or some retailers may ask it differently, but I always look at indicating retail. How do you see your item going to market? What's your retail strategy? And hold the cost to when you meet on the follow-up. There's a lot of factors involved in cost, especially if, retailers want to put advertising accruals or logistics or transportation, all the different components that go into a cost structure. But as long as everybody has an understanding of where you think your product is in terms of retail, that's how the strategy in terms of how to approach the business. And if that product line mixes well with your retail market. I know if, I have independents that are in rural areas, they're not looking for a $90, pot and pan set. So, it's something different. It's a different, strategy in terms of how to approach it. But knowing the market and knowing how to go through, that's how many of the retailers differentiate what they want to see and what they don't want to see.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Rick. Kind of go on the supplier side of the table, Isaac. For you over the years, is there a presentation process that works best for you as far as sales sheets or having a full deck presenting your full line, or what's been most successful for you in these short presentations?
I think it's keeping it focused on, again, the star products, because I think a lot of companies have a broad range. So it's keeping it short with what our core item is, or if there's a new item we're launching, that's what, we feel something to keep it consistent, and then looking to bring a one sheet where we could expand on that. We bring limited samples. I remember when I first started, we'd bring a whole box, but even just trying to carry it, I found myself spending more time trying to look through my bag for this one item rather than, keeping it focused on what we have and trying to keep the dialogue going to get to the next step. Because, right, what I feel the conference is the door opener, and then after that, the work is the follow-up and then going in and getting the meeting from there. So.
And staying with that theme on the follow-up, you know, I know Rick's touched on it, and you guys did a great job completing your meeting there with that. But what have been some of the best practices as far as follow-up goes for you?
I'm still trying to tweak that today. But one of the things that I've felt, one of the pieces is bullet point some of your key items when you're in your meeting, finding those key follow-up pieces that you and the buyer had been talking about, the key timelines, as Rick was saying, in September. So those are my key follow-up when I send that, and when I send the one pager. And then also just one of the things that I found, I remember I used to always try to get all my emails done right away, but I've realized during time, you know, the buyers have been out for, you know, especially at the GM conference where it's 5 days, you know, they've been out for 5, and, you know, so I try not to just totally rush it, but you still got to get it in a timely manner. But that's just been some of those pieces that I feel from a follow-up that have worked for us.
Rick, and I guess while we're on that topic as well, is there a follow-up process that kind of works best for you coming from the suppliers?
I think one of the biggest pieces, and Isaac did a nice job, is asking the question, and when is your review, and when do you want me to follow up? Establish, you know, a real clear follow-up timeline, and be transparent in terms of, you know, the merchandisers or buyers should be transparent back and saying this will fit. So you level set your expectations on what the next steps are, and it's really just how do you set the timeline and really be aligned on, you know, when you want to see the follow up email. Like he says, I'll come back to hundreds of emails, and you know, if you're in the midst of that email because you followed up right away, you know, you may get lost in the shuffle. So really establish your timeline and understand, you know, the timeline that the buyers are at too.
Great. Thanks, Rick. One last little thing as far as the meetings go, Isaac, as you mentioned representation and brokers. Can you tell me how that kind of comes up during your meetings, or how important is that to have nailed down when you're coming in for prep?
It's an interesting question, just because there's many, it depends on your organization. Do you have more inside salespeople, or do you rely where you have minimal and you're using sales brokers in different territories? So I think that first piece is important to establish within your own organization. And then the second piece, it's especially if there's interest, you know, looking at, you know, asking the retailer for that. I've also found, talking to other vendors, you know, one of the things that I've found is the supplier bullpen, what I call it. You'll find other brokers other companies that you might want to talk to, if that's something that is part of your strategy to find, you know, a good sales representative for a certain market.
And from a retailer wholesaler on that same question, it kind of puts some comfort level if they deal with the same people. But in most cases, a retailer or wholesaler probably will not recommend one person. They would probably send you a list, just so that there's no issues with that in terms of conflict or you know, trying to show. So I would say that don't be surprised if you get a list of brokers, and normally it's everybody
yeah, that's been my consistent. But at least it gives you that next step of understanding who's in that market. You know, because I've never really found this list that's out there, or a website that says, oh, these people call on these chains. So yeah, that's part of it. But again, that comes down to your strategy of, you know, do you want your direct person that can handle that and go in that direction.
Fantastic, guys. Those excellent points and great things to help us get prepared. Is there anything else, either of you, that you would like to add as far as preparation or during your presentation in the meetings?
I don't know if it's in the meetings, but I would say definitely take advantage of all the GMDC events. You're at a place or resort where, you know, everybody's there to sell product, whether it's a supplier or a retailer, and everybody there has some kind of relationship or contact with somebody. So I've always taken advantage of, whether it's in the hotel lobby bar or, doing the GMDC chairman dinners. I'm always, throughout the years that I've been there, I've always been able to find and build a nice network there. And I could say, for attending for 2 conferences for close to 10 years that, even the GMDC has a tight-knit family network within those relationships. So it takes time. It's a process, but I think a lot of not just selling inside there, it's also the outside and taking advantage of the different likes of the people with different industries and knowledge that you could really learn from and hopefully develop some business relationships that generate sales.
And that's an excellent point. I always say that, the conferences are great where we get a lot of business, but a lot of the actual relationship building and real insight to the business and what's going on happens at the events and the cocktail parties and some of the dinners. It really is one of the highlights of really building up a business relationship within the market. So we've known each other for quite a long time now, and business becomes very consistent because we know each other, we know what our businesses are like, and that's all been built on this relationship.
Boy, guys, I think that really wraps it up. So just bringing it together, being prepared for your meetings, and take the advice from these 2 veterans. And in addition to the formal and your set meetings, take advantage of all the other events and networking opportunities outside of the meeting room while at the GMDC conference.